So I just got home and it's here already. The corset mannequin pattern from Atelier Slyphe. Just ordered it on the 10th and it's now the 15th. So that was crazy, crazy fast. Oh, I can't wait to open it. Okay, so opening this up already, it is awesome. And these cute little things that come with it too. She's put it both in French and English for my ignorant North American self who really only knows French up until about a grade 10 level. And a little coupon code from Etsy, yay! So yeah, this is beautiful. It's in its own little envelope, so it'll be easy to store. This looks pretty straightforward actually. It's got some, you know, instructions over here about what the pattern pieces are going to look like. Everything is beautifully labeled. And it suggests, which is kind of cool, I love this part, that to make the slip cover you fill it with rags or plastic bags and things like that. The pattern pieces are really nice. They're on a larger piece of paper and no big giant fold out situations or anything. And the ones that have to be connected are very clearly marked at the bottoms. So this looks really great. I am so excited to give this a go, and I'm probably going to be going to the fabric store tomorrow to pick up my fabric because I don't know yet what I want to make this out of. If I want it just I don't think I want it to be just a regular coutil. I want something maybe a little more fancy. I don't know. We'll see. I should also mention that this pattern was 25 euros and the shipping was 10 euros, which is kind of great because it got here in less than a week from France to Toronto, so awesome. And I've cut it out already and I'm going to show you right now.
Here's what you're going to need to get started. A pattern from Atelier Slyphe, the 19th century Victorian corset mannequin pattern, 1 meter of strong woven fabric like a coutil, 1 meter of cotton batting, 2 to 3 kilos of pillow stuffing, 1.5 to 3 kilos of buckwheat, flax, or poly beads, and an oval that matches the size of your pattern for the base of the corset mannequin that you've either cut out or picked up at a craft shop. I couldn't wait to start cutting out the pattern pieces already. This is so much fun. It looks sort of like the bust might be a little bit flat in this one, which is pretty standard for a Victorian shape. I may end up shaping out the bust a little bit, I'm not quite sure yet. But at this point, take the time to tape together the pattern pieces that need to be attached, like the top and bottom of the front and back bodice, before you start cutting out the fabric. I made that mistake the first time. I don't want any of you to make that same mistake. And once you've taped your pieces together, it's time to start cutting out the fabric. So I did go ahead and use the coutil after all. It's just a basic white herringbone coutil, nice and soft. I did pre-wash it just to give it a little extra softness. It probably wasn't necessary. And I used a cotton batting underneath just to give it a little bit of extra body, a little bit of extra volume and softness. So please, again, don't forget, tape together your upper and lower pieces. To keep the bulk out of the seam allowances, I've done the seam allowances on the coutil and the batting separately. The back and the front seams are starting to come together really, really nicely. The instructions and markings are so easy to follow. For the base of the mannequin, I picked up this piece of oval wood, and it is exactly the right size for the base of the mannequin. This is going to help it to stand upright with a nice solid base. The tricky part is putting this into the mannequin before you close up the bottom. The best way to do this is to sew about halfway around the base of the mannequin, so sewing your bottom piece onto the body of the mannequin, leaving enough room to put the piece of wood in, and then continue to sew as much as you can with the wood in the mannequin around, so you end up with just a small gap at the back to put in your stuffing. Later on, to finish the mannequin, you can hand stitch this gap at the end. To fill the mannequin and give it a little bit of weight, I used polyfill beads instead of a buckwheat or a sawdust to give it a little bit more stability at the bottom. I got about 3 kilos of them and put plastic bags inside of the mannequin and then filled the beads into the plastic bags. This way I could get them in through a smaller space. I tied each of the bags separately to help keep the beads in place and to make sure that they didn't escape throughout the stuffing. Once the beads were securely in place, I took about 2.5 kilos of pillow stuffing and began stuffing it into the mannequin. This can take quite a while. You want to be able to stuff the mannequin as full as you possibly can with the stuffing. You want your mannequin to be soft enough to yield to the pressure of the corset, but rigid enough that it can stand on its own. All that's left to do is sew up the little gap in the back, and your corset mannequin is ready for display. I thought the bottom could use something a little bit extra, and I wasn't terribly happy with my hand stitching at the back. So I took this blue grosgrain ribbon and some white embroidered ribbon and hand stitched it to the bottom. This corset mannequin is absolutely perfect. I am so happy with how it turned out. The pattern was very easy to follow and the instructions were very clear. It's the absolute perfect shape to display a Victorian 19th century corset. As you can see, it does curve the busk into a bit of a C shape and allowing for a little bit more bulk at the bottom of the front. It's very typical for corset silhouettes of this era. It's just a personal preference, but I do like to display my corsets with a straighter busk at the front and a little more volume on the upper hip. So I may modify this pattern a little bit to make another mannequin that has a straighter front to it with a little more volume on the upper hip and a little less volume in the low belly. For now, we can remedy this with just adding a little bit of extra stuffing for each corset that's put on it. On the left-hand side, you can see that the corset has just been put on the mannequin without any additional stuffing. And you can see that it's a little bit gappy, a little bit wrinkly in the center. And I've filled it out with some extra stuffing between the corset and the mannequin on the right side. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please visit Atelier Slyphe at atelierslyphecorsetry.com. And if you want to learn any more corset making tips or tricks, follow me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/corsetry. Or take a workshop with us in the Toronto studio at torontocorsetacademy.com. Or visit us at our website www.starkers.com. Thanks for watching.